Becoming a world-class assassin has never been so easy, because in today's video, we'll be using carefully placed pyrotechnics to violently displace our targets. Normally as a hitman, you have the ability to choose from some of the finest weapons and tools, but all we really need today is willpower and a strong inclination towards international terrorism, which sounds appealing to a degenerate such as myself. Will I succeed, or will showcasing that I have the ability to carefully plan and carry out bomb attacks make me end up in a windowless room before I can finish this video? Now, I know what you're thinking. What's next? Beating Hitman while only using guns? Fair enough. So, for an added challenge, I'll be doing this whole playthrough on Master difficulty. Let's begin. To kick off our violent descent into a government watch list, the story begins in Paris. We have two primary targets, Viktor Novikov and Dalia Margolis. Besides making a strong fashion statement, we will carefully infiltrate the building, and will be greeted by one of our targets. Viktor is a man of habit. He likes to keep a close eye on his empire as he walks around, yells at people, and naturally gravitates towards the bar, making him one of the most middle-class billionaires ever. Great guy. Before he can finish his dramatic descent, however, we're going to tactically run past him and carry on for the bar area into the outside, as we are here on business and not for fun. Well, actually we're here for both, but our definition of fun is a little frowned upon by the so-called social norms. As we make our way through the yard, we need to ensure we dodge the cameras, as we are widely allergic to being recorded, which might send 47 into a murderous rage. Then we'll stumble upon two gentlemen having a discussion right by the stairs that lead into the basement area. Why are we going there? Well, to put it simply, we can't really wander into a staff area wearing nothing but a tank top. And also, we need rat poison, and it just so happens to be on one of the chefs in the basement. To procure said items, I will be using one of these, as all characters in this game have an instinctive greed which makes them sexually attracted towards minimal financial gain. So, if you think about it, we're really just doing God's work here. Now, I'll be able to access areas I wouldn't normally be able to without getting body piled by guards. As I mentioned, Viktor is a man of habit, but who we are really interested in is his bodyguard. Let's call him Bill. Every time they pass the kitchen to complain about whatever rich people complain about, Bill irresistibly sneaks a taste of one of the appetizers. This is our opportunity. So, before he does it again next time, we're going to add a bit of flavor. Then move across the hall into the bathroom and to tactically hide inside a closet and wait patiently. Now, inevitably, they'll make their way back into the kitchen, where Bill can't help himself but grab another taste. But oh no, this time something is wrong. Bill isn't feeling so well. We were finally ready to come out of the closet. But don't worry, Bill is going to be okay, probably. Why did we choose this poor man who was just digesting our food in reverse instead of Viktor? Well, for a phone, which is a very Eastern European thing to say. But this little device will put both of our targets in the same room. Notice there is a briefcase on the floor with enough space for a above average size of 3 inches bomb. I will carefully stash it away and then put it in the corner inconspicuously. Now all we have to do is just use the phone and enjoy the show. So I did, causing our targets to frantically flee into the room like they are in extreme danger. They are. Then thanks to my Hitman vision, I waited until they were both in the position to do this, followed by our amazing escape of walking through the front door. Next stop, where every romantic comedy takes place. This time, not only do we have 2 targets to assassinate, we also need to destroy a deadly virus, secured in a facility underground, full of guards with positively violent tendencies. So, to succeed, we'll need to think like Agent 47. Before we do, first, I'm gonna make my way into this building in particular. Why? Well, besides my irresistible urge to prey on vulnerable guards, we can disable all the cameras on the map. And after that's taken care of, we're gonna make our way towards the local chapel. No, not to atone for our sins, but because unsurprisingly, there's a dead man inside. To get in, I was forced to distract the doorman once again with choices ranging from sexual to financial. At this point, you might be wondering, why the hell am I just laying there? Well, being dead and naked, this man is not of much use, but being an ex-scientist, we can use him to bait another, preferably alive, person from the local science herd. Now, normally someone mourning their ex-colleague wouldn't bother me, but she has something we want, so we're going to let them communicate in real time. With that out of the way, our next stop is our summer apartment. Pick up some items. To help us navigate, I will quickly climb into my neighbor's apartment to borrow some clothes. Our first target mostly spends his day moping around and practicing golf with his instructor. We'd rather be practicing something else with our second target, who just so happens to also be a scientist. Now, we could rig the room with explosives, take his phone, and then call our target to bait her for a little afternoon practice session. But there's a more simple approach. Instead, I'm gonna stash this inside the room for a moment, then once again change my disguise and go back outside to put one of our little souvenirs into the basket. Now, time is of the essence, so without wasting it, I ran in and picked up the bomb, then went upstairs to grab the master key. And now, for the most difficult part, I walked there. On the other side, our target. Once the coast was clear, I went inside, left the briefcase, and ran downstairs towards the entrance to the lab, which, thanks to our science friend, we now have access to. Then we will wait. What for? Well, this, followed by this. With our targets spread all over the ground and, well, that wall, the rest was pretty easy. Just knock out 2 guards, climb down the railing into the secret facility, destroy the potentially world-ending virus, raise the alarm, not panic, climb back up, run through the tunnels into the outside, through the compound, back into the neighbor's apartment, take the clothes back, get inside the car, run over a pedestrian, and escape. See? Simple. Now, gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the sunny Italy, because now we're going here. This mission is, not good. You might be wondering what kind of advanced cool technique I will be using in this highly populated map. It consists of 2 parts. A brick, that man's head. But why did I put him into early dementia? Well, I like his clothes, but also it will get us through this weekly Twitter gathering into an embassy where our first target is. At this point, I stopped caring about the targets and was more concerned about not getting cancelled. All you need to know is that these men bad. So to remedy their living status, we need to get upstairs. And to do that, we'll need to get frisked. Luckily, I am unarmed and of no danger to society, so we could plant this briefcase with our little duck friend inside right behind the table next to the cables overlooking a small television set. Then on our way out, quickly liberate some rat poison from the cleaner's cart nearby. If all of that sounded easy, that's because it was. But this is where the fun begins. Because now, we need to get this man to sit under that moose. How do we do that? Well, on our way into the embassy, we also procured a crowbar, just so we could break open this random door in an alley. Inside is a membership card for the exclusive area in the local hookah shop. We needed access because the next step requires us to look capable enough to operate a camera, which luckily there is someone who matches that description. So we're gonna add a little bit of a smoke flavor to his hookah to get exclusive interview with him alone in a bathroom. After which, we can go to meet our new team as a professional cameraman. After a brief discussion, our target will have a seat. In the meantime, we're gonna borrow a fresh disguise. After a series of unfortunate accidents take place, we're gonna make our way out, which ironically was more difficult than getting in. But before we leave, we're going to infiltrate a garage underneath us to yoink the keys for a military jeep. After we finally get out, we'll make our way towards the local school. And I want to clarify, the school is currently serving as an FOB to a warmongering sociopath who's also currently planning a revolution, and I can't help myself but get involved in the local politics. But more importantly, I dislike competition. Funnily enough, infiltrating the school was easier than an embassy, which definitely took me 1 try. Now, we can simply walk upstairs, plant this briefcase behind the doorway, and use the speakers and soldiers who are also not the biggest fans of the general, both of which are conveniently located underneath us. Now, we can simply wait by the jeep for the right moment, detonate it, and be out before anybody has any time to react. Because luckily, our next destination is a much-needed holiday in a luxurious Bangkok hotel. I managed to retrieve the key from the reception and make it all the way to my room, before I got the urge to kill somebody again. Thankfully, we got room service, delivering us fresh sacrifice at the moment's notice. Our targets, a spoiled rich kid and a spoiled rich man, one of whom is on the other side of the hotel, which is currently off limits to any guests. But now that we're gainfully employed, we can make it past the intense security and all the way to the 3rd floor. To go up even further, we'll need to assimilate into a new role of a bodyguard. So naturally, I strangled someone. Now as one of the herd, I can make it all the way to where I know my target is going to be, and stash some fan mail. That wasn't the hard part. The problem is these guys, who are conveniently caught in a blast zone, and as much as I like killing, I don't do charity. In an attempt to lure one of them into isolation, I realized neither of them will ever walk alone without their boyfriend. So, head trauma, but silently, as I did not want to alarm the guards who frequently patrol the bathroom. Now all we have to do is calmly leave the area and wait. For the other target, we could change back into the gainful employment and inform him that we can take him to his room, which then we'll have to go for a painful process of actually doing chores. So instead, I'm just gonna put it in this bin and wait for him to get close. Now this is not very stealthy, but in my defense, I'm a maniac using explosives. And that's it. That's the whole mission. A relaxing holiday before we go to one of the most dangerous places on Earth, Colorado. You may notice that we have 4 targets to assassinate. Unfortunately, our look of someone who has their life together and ability to speak in full sentences didn't really fit the general vibe. So first, we had to blend in. And by blend in, I mean strangle someone. Heck, maybe even hide a body or 2. Now, we can start with the easiest part in this seemingly remote shed, where I'm going to plant a proximity-triggered explosive, influenced by progressive views that doesn't discriminate against payload recipients. Then, make my way towards the meth shack where Michael Myers likes to partake in his newfound hobby of drug-induced interrogations. There, while both our target and the guard are distracted, I will procure a new disguise, which will allow me to legally set foot inside this house. But before we do, to avoid any more charity work, I will instead leave this guy's future to the fate of medical bills, before infiltrating the main building and acquiring a key to one of our target's rooms. Why? Well, I'm a firm believer in efficiency, and more importantly, using everyday household objects to induce an early demise of my targets. In this case, Apple's new smartwatch, by replacing its battery with explosives, effectively turning one of our targets into Amazon Prime of death. But to use it, we first need to acquire a phone, which just so happens to be on one of these local Redditors. So, I pulled another classic Eastern European maneuver and lured one of them into seclusion, where I could liberate him of his possessions. Next, before everything is ready, we need to get a face. Thanks to my lack of decapitation skills, we're instead going to print it. As for the last piece of the puzzle, we needed to lure one of our targets into proximity mine we placed earlier. How? Well, the seemingly innocent terrorist technician is actually an Interpol agent, so we're going to relieve him of his badge. And now that we have everything, what's the next step? Flaunting it in front of my target and her two bodyguards. With our target on their way to their guaranteed demise, all I had to do now was be patient, specifically with Michael Myers. And lastly, same business day delivery of explosions. With all of our targets dead, I made my way into the basement and used the printed face we acquired earlier to access a tornado shelter, through which we can escape. And so our campaign of terrorism was nearing its dramatic conclusion, with the last location taking place in Japan, made more tricky since we can't bring any gear with us and only smuggle in one item for two targets. So we'll have to improvise. Luckily, our first target is an avid enjoyer of bad mouth hygiene, but contrary to what it might seem, this is actually a hospital, which shockingly does not contain any nicotine nor explosives. That's why first I'm going to violently acquire one of those items by breaking into my neighbor's room, with two guards that we will pacify. Then, like some boogeyman, wait for my neighbor to come back to promptly deprive his brain of oxygen. With a pack of smoke securely stashed in my prison pocket, we need to make our way into the room of our first target, which is heavily guarded by a small army of extremely dangerous anime enjoyers. To blend in, I made my way towards an escape shuttle, where we can find two more bootleg weeaboos enjoying the scenery. So naturally, I shall liberate one of them of their outfit and leave them unconscious and naked in the freezing cold. Next, after successfully infiltrating the room of my target, I will conveniently place some cigarettes on the counter. No, not of some blind long-term malice, but rather short-term targeted attempt on her life, while loosening the valve on one of the gas lamps in the balcony outside, which will result in hers and two others' early departure from this hospital. You might be thinking that we caught some innocents in the blast radius, but let me remind you that there are no innocent weebs. Our next target is where it got even trickier, as he's currently undergoing a surgery prep, monitored by multiple guards and doctors, so we can't just run in, toss a bomb, and call it a day. Instead, we're gonna have to kill him indirectly, by exposing his heart to the harsh and cruel conditions of fiery death. To do so, we first needed a new disguise, as both of these guards would recognize us as an imposter and promptly end our run. Next, I will turn down the temperature, causing both of them to exit the room, leaving us unattended. Lastly, we're going to place the rubber ducky and make our way towards the exit, changing back and running all the way out towards the shuttle. Then, we shall wait as our first target expires, to then use this to relieve our other target of his new heart, and with that finish our campaign, in which we have assassinated all of our targets via direct or indirect use of explosives. You might be curious as to how many laws we broke through this international spree of crimes. Well, I asked ChatGPT to summarize. This is a rough list of the crimes we've committed, and this is an approximate jail time we'd get if death sentence didn't exist. And lastly, I'd like to thank you for watching the video, and for inspiring me to make more silly content such as this.